Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning for the Acg School Jakarta virtual open house. My name is Mia Sari and I am the school admission officer and I will be your host for this morning. I'm so delighted to see families from different parts of the world joining us online this morning. We also have principal, teachers, and student leaders joining us online to introduce our school to you. During the event, if you have any questions at all about topics that we do not cover, feel free to use the Q&A feature instead of the chat feature. First of all, let's welcome our principal, Mr. Sean Hutchinson.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all online. Thank you very much for joining us on this very lovely Saturday morning in Jakarta. We will start with a bit of a presentation, and then this is an interactive session. So we've got a great panel, and I'm sure Miss Mia will be introducing our panel very soon. But thanks very much for joining us, Miss Mia, Miss Setra. I think we're going to kick into the presentation now. Is that right? Or are we going to do some introductions first?
We'll do the presentation first, Sean.
Okay, great. Thank you. So if we can get that presentation up, that would be great.
So perhaps while waiting for the presentation, I'm going to introduce the panelists today.
That'd be great.
Yeah, so other than our principal, Mr. Sean Hutchinson, we also have Miss Joanne Dickinson, our team leader for languages, English language support and special educational needs. Miss Charlene Chan, our year 4 teacher, who is also our child protection and safeguarding officer. We also have Miss Stephanie Datrix, our school counselor and also university guidance, and our lovely prefects who are on their first year of IBDP, Anirudh, Chiara, Lydia, and Malik. All right, perhaps we'll continue with the presentation, Ms. Septa and Mr. Sean, over to you.
That'll be great, thank you. Okay, not looking how we want it to look, but anyway, we will continue. So Acg School Jakarta is a part of the Inspired Education Group, who own and operate over 70 schools globally, and we're actually branching into some online schools as well. I'm sure you've seen some of the social media around that, but we are very fortunate to be a small to medium-sized international school in Jakarta, Indonesia, but have the support of our global network of schools. We have a support office in Auckland, New Zealand, and we also have our head office in the UK. So lots of really positive advantages about being a part of a larger group, and we'll highlight some of those things as we go through the morning. Next slide, if we can, Ms. Septa. So again, that's just giving you an indication of the number of schools that we networked with. Obviously, we've got schools in most regions of the world, and one of the advantages of being a part of that global network is the resources that we can tap into, the expertise that we can tap into, not only providing our own teachers with professional development, but networking at a subject level, at an operational level, and so on. So let's move to the next slide if we can. Excellent. So over the last few years, we've really spent a lot of time focusing on our identity as a school. And I think that our mission and vision tells people a lot about who we are and what we want to be moving forward. And the vision statement is a very aspirational statement. It's one that we work every day on to try and aspire to be the kind of school that is preparing our young people from kindergarten all the way through to the end of the IB diploma program, preparing our students to be creative, problem solvers who are entrepreneurial and innovative. And so the work that we do in the classroom, outside of the classroom, is always focused on those 4 pillars. And so our vision is very clear. And we're certainly not sitting here and saying that we're a finished product. We're always continuously searching for working towards improvement in all aspects and all areas of our school. But I think one of the things that you'll hopefully hear this morning when you listen to our prefects is the way in which they have embraced our vision through their actions and their interactions with each other. And so these guiding statements are really important to us. They will be reviewed on an annual basis as a part of our membership with the Council of International Schools, but also as the school evolves and changes and our demographic, our students and our families kind of change as we progress as a school. So if you are new to the school and you're wanting to get a little bit of an understanding about who we are, refer to our mission, refer to our vision. Let's move on, please, Ms. Septa. So we are a values-driven school, and the 4 core values that we promote each and every day are really important to us: excellence, partnerships, integrity, and compassion. And so our teachers try and integrate this language into the classroom, into our interactions with each other, the relationships that we build. When we are referring to excellence, we're not talking about a particular number in mind or any of those things. What we're talking about when we're talking to students about excellence is how can we work every day to improve and get the best out of ourselves. So if we can see that students are improving from day to day, they are demonstrating that value of excellence. Our partnerships are not just partnerships with each other, with our families, our parents, with our students, with our colleagues, our staff, but it's also the wider community. So we have many partnerships that we have built over a number of years, and we continue to build. So as I said, our partnership and our relationship with the Inspired Education Group is growing every day, and that's a really important partnership that we have with our other schools, with our other colleagues around the world. But it's our partnerships with local communities. So we're a part of the SPK group of schools. We're a part of the IB Association of Indonesia. We have networks and partnerships with businesses, our corporate partners, as well as embassies and local government agencies. So we do spend a lot of time working with our partners, trying to understand their needs, work together on various things. And at a student level, our students, particularly through the IB diploma program, they provide, so the program provides opportunities for students to build partnerships with charities and organizations to provide community service. Integrity is always a really important one within an international school context. And so we do talk to our students about academic honesty and what that means as we progress through schooling. But it's about being honest and open, and sometimes being vulnerable with each other, and actually building and strengthening those relationships through that honesty, through really strong morals, and making sure that we are building honest relationships. And compassion is a real important core value. And I mean, obviously, through the pandemic, it's been a real challenge for our school community, but also many other school communities in Indonesia. And our students and our faculty and staff demonstrate this core value on a daily basis. We do care about our local community. We have continued to support our local community. So if you know anything about living and working in Indonesia, we have a real responsibility to look out for those less fortunate than ourselves, but more importantly, try and put ourselves in other people's shoes, and then from there build a deeper understanding of their situation. And so, you know, I'm really proud of the way in which our community have worked together, not only through the pandemic. I mean, even pre-pandemic, I mean, we had, I remember we had the Lombok earthquake, we had flooding, we had various things going around us in Indonesia. And every time our community steps up and tries to support those in need. And so showing a great deal of care and responsibility and respect for those in need. So our core values are really important to us. It's something that we expect students and families to demonstrate as well. So even in parent interactions, we expect our families to demonstrate those core values. Next slide, please. Yeah, I'm going to move to the next slide, I hope. Yep, there we are. Oh, a little bit interesting this morning. You want to go back to that timeline, Miss Scepter? There you go. Whoop. I just want to not highlight that section, and hopefully that's visible for people. So this slide really just gives you an indication of the timeline for the school. So we started off in 2001, and it was in 2004 that we obviously opened here in South Jakarta. We're in a really great location in South Jakarta. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But as you can see, we've progressed, obviously starting with the IB Primary Years Program. And our Primary Years Program is well established now. You know, we've gone through a number of 5-year evaluation cycles, so it's in really, really good shape. Obviously, we've been working with Cambridge for a number of years, and Academic Colleges Group, or ACG, has had a long-standing relationship with Cambridge for many years. And obviously, the IB Diploma Program is a recent addition. We previously offered A-level qualifications at that high school end, but our IB Diploma Program now, we're into our 4th cohort of graduates, and our graduates are going on to some great universities and colleges and post-secondary options, and I'm sure Miss Stephanie will speak about that a little bit later. That just gives you a bit of a timeline in terms of where we're up to as a school. If we can move to the next slide smoothly, that would be great. There you go. Okay. So some key points for the school. Obviously, the international curriculum is really important to us. We are very committed to providing 3 clear programs within our school. I'll talk a little bit about that and the continuum with the curriculum. Languages continue to expand. So our Chinese Mandarin currently runs from year 4 all the way through to year 12 and year 11. And next year it will move into the diploma program. We obviously offer French and now Chinese Mandarin at ab initio level. And obviously English and Bahasa are languages taught and learnt both as a first language and an additional language. Our school facilities continue to develop, so we're well equipped in that area. I think one of the things that people will notice most of all when they come into the school is our ratio teacher to student. So we do, particularly in the middle school, high school, we have you know, some very ideal class sizes, but it's not just about a low ratio, it's about the kind of support that we can provide the student at a specialist level. And so, you know, we're trying to create an environment where students get the necessary attention and care and support as they continue their learning. We do provide English language support both in the primary school and through the middle school. So we do have a pull-out, push-in model, and I'm sure Miss Joanne will talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. Obviously, we have been introduced to Miss Stephanie from a counselling point of view, and it is a comprehensive counselling role. It's not just focusing on social emotional support for students, but it's also focusing on university pathways and guidance. And so Miss Stephanie, I'm sure, will talk a little bit more about her role a little bit later. We had a little bit of a dry spell with after-school activities through the pandemic, but we're really pleased to see our after-school activities program up and running again. We kind of kicked off again in January this year. So we've got a number of options, and it's really, to see our students involved in volleyball and basketball and swimming and football again is fantastic. And obviously our after-school activities program is not just sports oriented. We also have a number of other activities, including how to be a DJ. I think that's one option. It's a really interesting option for some students. Graphic design. I think there's hip hop, dance, and things like that. So, so students have a little bit of choice to enrich their school experience after school. Our bus service, continues to follow health and safety protocols. So we do have kind of limited space on our buses, but our fleet of vehicles really, we try and provide a very personalized service. It's not door to door, but it's certainly close in some cases. So, so there are some apartment blocks that the vehicles reach out to. And so for those of you who are not located near the school, or you need that transport support, that option is there for you. We're very well equipped from an IT point of view. I think one of our strengths as a school was our ability to transition from full face-to-face learning to online and then hybrid learning. So we're able to tap into a number of digital tools to support teachers and to support students through that learning journey. And so students, certainly in the middle school, high school, they follow a BYOD program, bring your own device. They all have Office 365 license, access to all of the Office suite, as well as the Adobe Creative Cloud. And then, of course, we use digital platforms like Seesaw in the primary school, ManageBack all the way through the school, and a number of other digital tools that support learning, support communication across the school. So we feel that this is an area of strength for our school. University pathways is always something that the parents are mindful of. I mean, we have parents from year one talking about what university options may be available to their children, but certainly in terms of guidance, and again, in line with our digital platform access, our students from year 7 through to year 13 have access to UniFrog, which is a global platform that not only provides information about university pathways, but helps students to understand themselves better, understand what choices they may have. So it touches on career planning, it touches on kind of becoming more aware of who they are, what their strengths and weaknesses are. We've got a really diverse community. We're going to have an even bigger diverse community next year with the new faculty coming in from lots of different places around the world. And I think, if people were going to say, we're going to ask, how would you describe ACG? And I would describe Acg School Jakarta as a truly international school with an international community, a very diverse community. Children, our faculty from lots of different parts of the world. And I think that makes us a really special place to work at and a special place to learn. And the family feel for me is really important because it is in line with our core values. It's in line with our vision. We want to make sure that all of the children that come to our campus that learn with us are supported and feel safe. And we want our parents to understand that when their kids come here, the focus is on learning, the focus is on caring about your son or daughter. And we want our parents to be involved in the education of their sons and daughters. So that family feel and that family approach is really important. Obviously, it relates a little bit to our size and how big we are as a school, but it's also how we interact with each other. I think that's certainly a strength, and our students themselves lead the way with that for sure. Next slide, please. Okay, so just a few more snaps of our facilities. We've done a lot of work around not only our art studios, but our design technology space. The cafeteria, unfortunately, at the moment is closed. We're trying to reopen that and get the cafeteria back up and running for our community. Our library, we have a nice little primary and middle school, high school library section. Science labs are obviously catering for students that are taking pure sciences at high school, chem, physics, and bio. And our environment is very easy to walk around. It's not a huge campus; it's a very compact campus, but we have all of the necessary facilities to provide a quality education for our young people. Next slide, please. So this is really the curriculum continuum for parents. So just so that people understand, at a kindergarten level, it's very much about that developmental stage, that fundamental learning skills. So we're not just focused on academic progress, but we're focused on social emotional progress, and that ties in nicely with our play-based approach at kindergarten. And that continues through primary school. We're obviously concerned about a more holistic approach to education, and the IB Primary Years program certainly provides that. At middle school, students kind of spend a little bit more time focusing on kind of subject-specific skills and knowledge and understanding, but it's still establishing those fundamental skills and preparing for high school. And our high school program, whether it's at IGCSE level or the IB diploma, is predominantly preparing students for universities. But we're starting to see a trend of, particularly through the pandemic, students taking gap years, students going on to potentially vocational training, but still a large number of our students are going on to university pathways beyond the high school program. Next slide, please. So this slide, hopefully, if it loads, yep, it provides the three programs that we follow. So the IB, the International Baccalaureate Primary Years program, starts at kindergarten, 3 years of age, all the way through to year 6. Our year six students are busy, madly busy at the moment with their PYP exhibition, which is a wonderful extended project that students focus on at the end of the PYP, and I'm sure some of our students may mention that this morning. But once students finish the PYP program, they transition to our Cambridge program with the lower secondary from years 7, 8, and 9 through to our IGCSE qualifications at 10 and 11. And so this is very much about building the skills, the knowledge, the understanding around subject specific learning through to the IB diploma, which is our pre-university program, and the qualifications that students earn afford them the opportunity to apply for universities around the world. Next slide, please. So lots of people kind of ask themselves, well, why ACG? So just a couple of things really to highlight. Our curriculum is really important to us, and it's recognized globally. We do take a holistic approach to learning and student development. So, ACG, Academic Colleges Group, may be a little bit misleading. Yes, we are an academically focused institution, but that doesn't mean that we're just catering for the top 5% of students. We do have some strong students in our school, but what we're more focused on is making sure that we're providing a broad, holistic education so that our young people can grow and develop and become really good people, and continue to to contribute beyond their high school years at Acg School Jakarta, whether they progress onto university or go into the workforce. We want the education that they have come from to really shape who they are and how they want to impact the world moving forward. We do focus on an inquiry-based approach. I would go a little bit further and say that we all take a social constructivist approach to learning. So we do encourage students to discuss, to debate, to engage in collaborative learning experiences. And so when you visit a classroom, whether it's an IB/PYP classroom or a middle school classroom or a high school classroom, there are students engaged in that kind of learning where they're questioning, they're debating, they're discussing, as well as all of the other academic kind of skills and qualities and attributes. Next slide, please. I've mentioned the family feel about our school. Our teachers, so we do have obviously expat teachers that relocate to Indonesia and work with our students, and we also have a strong group of local teachers that support parts of our curriculum, including Bahasa Indonesia as a language, both at a first language and an additional language option. And we have a number of local teachers that work across the school in other specialist areas. So we think that we are able to recruit highly qualified but experienced teachers who can work with our young people and help them grow. Our school facilities I've spoken a little bit about, and our university pathways, not just providing students with access to resources like UniFrog, but also providing opportunities to speak to Ms. Stephanie one-to-one about what they are aspiring to achieve, what they hope to achieve, getting parents involved in that discussion, and making sure that there is support around the students. We think that 16, 17-year-olds are independent and mature enough to make those kinds of decisions. A lot of our students are, but sometimes we need to provide that necessary guidance and support to help students and their families make appropriate decisions about university applications and so on. Next slide, please. So this slide is really, and it's probably quite difficult to read on the screen. There's some tiny bits of writing there, but this is really an indication of acceptances. So our students tend to apply for a good number of universities globally. The majority of our graduates have gone overseas, but we do have some students that look at universities in Indonesia. But you can see there that we've got students, across the globe, being accepted to university. So acceptances are different to the students that actually take their offer. So this is really just giving you an indication of how many schools and universities around the world our students are being accepted into. Next slide. So as I said, we not only look at educators who are qualified and experienced, but we want our adults to really fit the profile of an Acg school educator. So we want our teachers to be collaborative, passionate, resilient. We want them to be inquirers themselves. We want them to be able to demonstrate through their actions what we expect of students in the classroom. Okay, and so I think this slide gives a really clear indication to prospective families about the types of adults that we have working with our young people. For me, a sense of humor and being open-minded are critical qualities for an international school educator. And we see that every day with our teachers. And I think that, and I hope that our prefects would agree that our teachers demonstrate many of these qualities presented. Next slide. I think we're just about to the end. Excellent, fantastic. So that is a pretty brief snapshot of the school. And I think now we're going to get into the real business of our virtual open house, because it's an opportunity for our attendees, our prospective families, to fire away with those questions. Miss Mia, would you like to kind of set some ground rules about how this is going to happen?
Yes, so basically it's really nice to see that all our participants actually have their names listed very well. So yeah, you can basically use the Q&A function instead of the chat function to leave any questions while you're at it. So rather than waiting later and then forget about it in the end. Thank you for the presentation, Pa Sean. So I'm going to continue with our teacher, Miss Charlene Chan. Miss Charlene, how are you this morning? Oh, you're still muted.
Thank you.
All right. So Miss Charlene is our year 4 teacher, and she's also our child protection and safeguarding officer. Now, Miss Charlene, can you share a little bit of your thoughts about how we have navigated through the pandemic?
Sure. Well, being one of the first few international schools who had to get into online learning, I think we've managed pretty well in the last 2 years with the support of our global network, inspired schools and so forth. We have tried our best, and I think we have achieved providing an engaging virtual learning environment, both online and and a hybrid. Of course, it had its challenges, but the teachers have been. I think our teachers are fairly creative. They had to be very creative, actually, to teach in a learning environment, a virtual learning environment, and I'd say internationally, all teachers who had to head into an online environment would have expressed some, concerns and challenges on how to do that. But I think we've been very creative about it, and we've had to provide our academic objectives through, with Cambridge and the PYP. Their objectives in a creative way so that we can provide an engaging learning environment that our students would engage or participate fully. Obviously, it has been difficult for our families to switch to coming into a working from home and learning from home scenario. Home used to be a place where it's kind of safe and you relax and so forth, and all of a sudden school is on in your lounge or work, and sometimes you'd have families with all their devices on at the same time, so you will also have the challenges of internet connection issues and so forth. Also the screen time, the increased screen time, so we've had to also adjust our programs or the way we teach so that our students aren't always online. It's important to have that balance to ensure that you have a good, it's basically for our health and well-being, both for our parents and our children, obviously. Increased screen time is something that we all realize, even as teachers, as educators, we've had to move away from that physically, just for our own mental health. So therefore, I'd say it's the same for their families as well. But I have to say that we're heading towards, when we've moved to the hybrid, you could see the kids who were so excited to come back to school. They were just craving that, social contact with their peers. And so they're always excited to go to school. Some of them don't want to leave. But they had to. But we've also had to follow the strict health protocols, and we've also expected our families who choose to come back to school during the hybrid session to also follow our strict protocols. So we've had our students have also enjoyed. When we were online, we've had to continue with, instead of field trips, we'd have virtual field trips. We'd have online guest speakers. In our case, in our classroom, we've had a medical surgeon talking to us about the human body and talking about the pandemic. We've had, when we were learning about structures, we've had an architect talking about the apartments and malls that he created. And we've had an engineer who's linked with the metro, and he has talked about the tunnel boring machines and the current project that's going on with metro right now. So that has been interesting. Coming back to hybrid, our students have been able to enjoy being with, doing PE again with our PE teachers, and art with all the supplies already here. And sometimes the supplies are not as available at home. So that's some of the things that they've enjoyed. In our class, we've also had our kids do the saman dance, which is a traditional Indonesian dance together. And it's a lot more fun when you're doing it together rather than online, right? Even though we've had musical numbers online, and we've put together a video, which is great, but it's always nicer to have it to be with your peers. Our students have become very savvy with digital tools over this last few years. And so we've had to also ensure that we are teaching students to keep safe. And as the designated safeguarding, I forgot my title, sorry. Designated safeguarding lead of the school. I'm actually responsible for teaching, for training our teachers to ensure that we do provide a safe learning environment and promote digital citizenship with our students as well.
Yes,
so that's kind of in a nutshell how I think we've navigated fairly well, considering how long we've been in it for a while.
All right. So now talking about the previous pandemic, can you describe what school is like for the upper primary students now that we're able to come back again for like a full week of school, full morning right now?
Sure. The students have had to get used to our safety protocols. When they come in, they've got temperature check, they have to hand sanitize and everything, keep their masks on. So they've had to learn some new things in terms of making sure that that's routine throughout the day and in the mornings. And then when they get to school, we've got, they're all, they love seeing each other, working with each other collaboratively. So they do collaborate with each other. We just make sure that we're mindful of our social distancing and so forth, but they still do it. They've enjoyed, everything that you could do with class and the facilities that we have. They're able to do our dance in the dance studio. They're able to do experiments in school. We've had to, for example, we're learning about our unit is about how stories are passed down through generations, and now they are going through their summative and how they're going to express themselves in terms of stories. So we've got students creating either puppets, the traditional type of puppets, or they're doing stop motion videos or the coding Scratch to create their stories, so they're expressing themselves. So they are pretty digital savvy, our students right now. Year 5 have been working on DNA and the scientific method. And year 6, as Mr. Sean was saying, they're actually very busy with their PYP exhibition, looking at issues such as global warming, what else is there? Endangered animals, no poverty, and gender equality. We've had a very busy, it's lovely to be in a busy classroom and to see kids in the hallways. So yes.
Indeed. And last questions for you. What are the co-curricular opportunities that are available for our upper primary students?
Okay, some of my upper primary kids are doing dance, soccer, swimming. There are others, basketball. There's basketball, volleyball, badminton, and now esports as well, which is a coding program.
Sure. All right then. Thank you very much, Ms. Charlene. I'm going to move on to our prefects. So these four students have shown us exceptional leadership qualities this year, and they're also currently on their first year of IBDP, so very, very busy. So we have Anirudh, Lydia, Kiara, and Malik. How are you all this morning?
We're all doing well. Thank you for asking.
Really nice. Okay, so two of our prefects have been attending ACG since their primary years, and Anirudh and Lydia, can you share with us how ACG primary education help you to prepare for middle and high school? Perhaps Anirudh can start first.
Sure. Thank you for your question, Miss Mia. So once again, my name is Anirudh, and I am one of the prefects this year. I have been at ACG for about 7 years now, so I have experienced a lot of what the school has to offer. My primary education at Acg School Jakarta has continuously proved to be beneficial for me throughout my secondary years, and it has helped me develop into the person that I'm today. For example, I remember being a member of the student council during primary school, and this was a very helpful experience for me as it had developed my leadership skills and collaborative skills when organizing and hosting events for the school. It was also very beneficial for me to be able to work with secondary school students at the time. I gained a lot of insight into what secondary would be like through discussions with older students and teachers, and I remember participating in secondary classes for a few days where I observed how they work and what their school life is like. I hope to continue this and assist my younger peers in primary as they progress into secondary. I consider myself to be very enthusiastic about STEM subjects such as mathematics, physics, chemistry, and biology, and primary school helped me to spark this interest early on with the fun and engaging experiments and investigations we performed in our classes. Overall, the primary years program is a very holistic program and one that I'm glad to have undertaken. Throughout my schooling at ACG in both primary and secondary, I have found that the teachers have been extremely helpful and they're always ready and willing to lend a hand whenever I need assistance or if I have any questions. The teachers are very skilled and they have years of experience. Even throughout this pandemic and the challenging times we have had to face over the past 2 years, I've seen firsthand the engagement that primary students have demonstrated throughout the student council meetings and the interactions and conversations I've had with them. Thank you.
Over to Lydia.
Yeah, so I've been in ACG for about 11 years, and I've learned a lot during my time here as well. Similar to Anirudh, one of the factors that helped me a lot with the transition from primary to secondary school was the fact that we were introduced to secondary school life early on. Prior to the transition to secondary school, primary students had the opportunity to work closely with secondary students through the buddy program, in which we spent time with the secondary students and learned how to adapt to their new surroundings. And I remember vividly during the buddy program, I got to conduct experiments in the science lab with secondary students, and that was one of the things that made me look forward to secondary school. Our seniors were extremely kind and helpful during the program, and the activities we undertook were both enjoyable and also educational. And I looked up to them because they gave me so many helpful insights and hints that I've used in the past as well. And it was a lot of fun when I finally got to do the same for my juniors after I started secondary school as well. So yeah, that's my point of view.
Thank you very much, Lydia. So now move on to Chiara. So Chiara, can you share with us your most memorable experience during your schooling here at ACG?
Thank you for your question, Ms. Mia. I would say that my most memorable experience with schooling in ACG so far would be being in the student council as a whole. Well, that doesn't just mean the pursuit of events, but also the planning that goes into it. ACG has allowed, especially being online, creative approaches to reinforcing the student community that has been lost and been out of touch for the past 2 years. It's hard to get students to speak with others outside of the classroom, and it was especially hard when it was all online. And I was able, with the student council, to meet with others throughout the secondary years every Friday. And we would have insightful discussions on not only events, but how everyone is doing. And I thought that was very important in strengthening our relationships with other students in other years. I would say that my most memorable experience as a whole would be just working with others, and it doesn't have to be a planned event to make it fun, but the presence of others made it fun for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Kiara. Okay, last one, Malik. As one of the active students in our sports team, what are the co-curricular opportunities that students have in middle and high school at ACG?
Thank you for your question. So just as a quick perspective, I've been at ACG all throughout middle school and I am now in high school. So the co-curricular activities that students can choose from are mainly sports and after-school clubs. So for sports, there are an array of sports, and mainly there are volleyball, football, basketball, swimming, and more. Apart from sports, there are also school clubs, like robotics and art classes. For me personally, in middle and high school, I joined football, volleyball, and swimming. So each of these sports have set days and set coaches for each sport, and the classes are one time per week from 2:40 until 4. Something that's really fun about joining after-school activities and sports in particular are that you can play with friends, engage with other students as well. And pre-COVID, we could have had competitions with other schools, which was very intense and overall very fun for all the teams. Another opportunity that some students may have as they get into higher year levels is assisting with coaching, which I'm also doing now with lower secondary football. This is something I really enjoy since I get to still engage with other fellow students and get to share my knowledge and skills of the sport. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you, Malik. And I think, of course, I would like to mention also about our Radio Wolf, right, Mr. Hutchinson? It's one of also the interesting curricular activities that our students members are very active. They have their own production team. And if you're visiting our YouTube channel, you can see our assemblies are there. So our monthly assembly is shared in our YouTube channel. So you can check out what we had every month with the Radio Wolves.
There's a lot of information on that YouTube channel, some really good viewing. I always like the Radio Wolves segments, I guess you can call them, in our virtual assembly, certainly over the last couple of years. I think this year, the joke segment is probably the most entertaining for me. I like really bad dad jokes, and there are lots of really bad dad jokes on that YouTube channel. So check it out if you want to see some of the creativity and the way in which not only our Radio Wolves, but that whole virtual assembly situation that we've had running over the last couple of years. We will continue that for sure. The students basically run that themselves, and so each month, we have that virtual assembly where we're showcasing student talents, but we're also listening to different perspectives, student council members, leaders, Radio Wolves, a whole range of things that's happening. So yeah, we're really lucky from that respect, and lots of opportunities, I guess, outside of clubs and kind of formal after school activities that students can be a part of, which is great.
All right. Okay. Thank you for our student leaders. Next, I'm going to move to Miss Joanne Dickinson. Miss Joanne is the team leader for the language department, English language support and special educational needs. Good morning, Miss Joanne. How are you?
Good morning, Mia.
Hello, you're looking great.
Thank you.
Ms. Joanne, can you explain to us how, as an inclusive school, ACG supports our ELS and special educational needs students?
Okay, so basically, as you said, Mia and Mr. Hutchinson mentioned that at ACG School Jakarta, we do embrace inclusive inclusive education. And the overall principle is that we believe that all children belong. And therefore that means that every child and family is valued, and that everybody deserves the same opportunities just like everybody else. And the second principle is that all children learn in different ways. All adults learn in different ways as well. So inclusion is about giving support to children who need it so that they can learn and they can participate in meaningful ways. So in embracing that ethos of all children belong and that all children learn in different ways, we do accept children who require English language support. We also accept children who have special educational needs, and those needs could be in the areas of communication and interaction. It could be in cognition, it could be challenges in learning or behavioral, emotional or social difficulties. And of course, we will accept children who are gifted and talented. So looking at the English language support, as Mr. Hutchinson mentioned, we have English language support for students who require it starting at year 2. And so what happens is the support is provided either by pull-out small group instruction or by support provided in the classroom. So we have 4 specialist teachers throughout the school who work directly with those students. So in those small classes, they may receive learning opportunities in reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And I think the beauty of the program is that because each student is on a different continuum of learning, even in different skills, most of the interactions are actually tailor-made to each student. So you may have a group of year 5 students, they all may require work, but support. However, they all receive support in different ways depending on their needs. So the objective of the English language support program is that once the students are able to function independently, then we can reduce support slowly over a matter of time. Some children will move through the support program very quickly. Some children require a longer amount of time. Now, thinking about the special educational needs, what students in this area receive is what's called an EAP. So that is an adjusted program that is developed specifically for that child's individual needs. Now, the EAP plays a critical role in ensuring that teachers are able to give the correct modifications or accommodations both inside the classroom and outside the classroom to ensure that the goals of the EAP are met. At this point, teachers work very closely with parents to share progress, to let parents know how their child is progressing towards their goals. And we also work with outside agencies, some in Jakarta and some overseas. And additionally, of course, we have support from Miss Stephanie Datrix, our counsellor, who is able to provide small group or individual instruction as needed. So basically, because we have such, and every school generally has a very diverse community, we value everyone within that community, but we also believe that students need to learn together. So it's inclusive, everybody learns together, and we grow together.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Joanne. And as one of the advisor for year 7, can you describe a little bit more about the pastoral support that we provide for students in the middle school?
Okay, so the advisor role. So just to tell generally what happens when the children leave primary school. In primary school, you have a homeroom teacher. But when you move into middle school and high school, we have what's called an advisor. And an advisor is it's a unique and really important role in the structure of ACG School. So in middle school and high school, each student is placed in an advisory group. And as you said, Mia, I'm an advisor for year 7 students. So currently I have 6 students who I work with directly. Now, my role as advisor is to provide support in a variety of ways. So I may provide guidance and encouragement. I can assist students in setting and reviewing personal goals. I will also help them develop action plans so that they can achieve their academic goals. But overall also is that I'm supporting students in raising their expectations. So my role would also deal with successes and failures, achievement and concerns. There could be problems with friendship. They may require support in study skills, home learning, behavior, discipline. So basically, it's a pastoral role, but it has many different hats. And an advisor role, it changes over the years. So my year 7 students obviously have very, very different needs to what Malik has, for example. So his advisor may be dealing with more academic or, you know, thinking about pathways. But my role in year 7 is how to use your locker and making sure that, you know, you're taking your books home.
From primary school, I guess.
It is very different. Yeah. So we have an advisor meeting every day at 2:20 until 2:40. That's when you meet with your advisor. And we also communicate with parents directly. So we're the first port of call if students have concerns, but also if parents, if something's going on at home, the parents can, you know, directly contact advisor. You know, Sarah didn't sleep well last night. She might be a bit crotchety today. So we keep that and maintain that communication. It's this essential part of the advisory role. So ultimately, the advisor builds a level of trust so that the students have someone that they can talk to whenever needed.
Mm.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Joanne. So I think that that probably your section also have answered one of the questions in the Q&A about the ELS support that is provided. But if there's additional questions, feel free to add in the Q&A sections. Thank you, Ms. Joanne.
You're welcome, Ms. Mia.
To our counselor, Ms. Stephanie Datrix. Ms. Stephanie, can you share with us about your role as the school counselor and university guidance at ACG?
All right, thank you, Ms. Mia. So as mentioned with Ms. Joanne, we work closely together to support the students. Of course, the goal itself is to increase the outcomes of the students. Yeah, it means that, of course, the outcomes we can see is from the grades and then how good students in any skills, yeah, that needed for the university at the end. First of all, I really work close enough with not just with the advisor, but also with the subject teacher. We work together to see the progress of the students. So in the beginning of the year, students always set the goal, what I want to achieve next year. So from the goal itself, we kind of monitor, okay, for this year, students want to be like this, like that, and I want to achieve score. For example, I want to get A from chemistry, for example, like that. So what we can do is to support the students as a counselor and also as work together with the subject teacher as well. And then through the counseling that I conduct with the students, I'm trying to help the students to explore their self first. yeah, or to get to know what I'm good at and what actually the weakness that I have. So from that, you kind of realize, okay, I have my strength like this, I have the weakness like this. What can I do to achieve my goal after I graduate from high school, right? And then we kind of work together to explore what kind of skill that I can develop through my high school or through my school in ACG. Right, and then once the students come up, okay, Miss, I think I'm good in this skill, and then what kind of support that school can give to us to develop these skills. And then I work together with all the stakeholders in this school to support what actually students need to develop that skills. Once they know about it, and then let's start to explore the career for your future after the high school. Where do you want to go? I want to that university, Miss. I want to be in that university with that major. So, okay, let's set up the strategy to achieve that. Yeah, through the series of the counseling, we finally, we need to narrow their goal. From in the year 12 and year 13, they started to do the diploma program. That's the time for the students to finally decide, I want to go to that university with that major. So from the year 12, I need to take this subject. For example, student A wants to go to the Queensland University in Australia in psychology major. Okay, through the diploma program, what should I take? Okay, I need to take English, I need to take psychology, I need to take mathematics and biology, and that's all I need. Okay, you can take that subjects through your high school. And then what other requirements needed to get to the Queensland University for psychology? All the things we put it on the list. So just we want to make sure on the last year in ACG, means in the year 13, students all set up with everything they need before they, and then I'm also help the students with all the requirements, all the qualification that university asks from the students. And then at the end, students goes to the university that they want, and then parents also happy with the students' choices. And I'm open myself also if parents wants to have a discussion or a talk with me on how to support their students, their kids at home, especially to achieve their future career. Yeah, that's kind of a brief explanation on what is my role as a career guidance counseling in ACG. Thank you, Miss Mia.
Thank you, Ms. Stephanie. And I think Mr. Hutchinson, one of the things that's also a privilege that we have being part of Inspired Education is the UniFrog apps that we have in place for our year 9 up that they can access. Can you probably share a little bit information about the UniFrog, Mr. Hutchinson?
Sure, Mia. I mean, I think I mentioned it earlier that we are very fortunate to be part of a larger education group. And so the tools and resources that our teachers have available to them, but also our students have available to them, really support them. And UniFrog is a platform that really provides a whole range of resources and information for the student. And as Ms. Stephanie indicated, the focus is in the early stages, you know, in middle school, it's very much about understanding the self and kind of trying to figure out, what am I good at? What am I interested in? What am I not so good at? And as the student kind of progresses, they start to kind of form or crystallize in their own minds kind of the direction that they're heading. But it can take a long time. I mean, we've still got, you know, year 12 and 13 students that don't, we've still got adults on screen that don't know what they want to be doing when they grow up. Look, it's a real challenge. I mean, I think, you know, and I'm not going to give away age, Miss Mia, but let's say that, you know, Miss Joanne and I, when we were at school, you know, we probably had a couple of options to look at, and we'd do some investigation and then we'd pursue that option. For young people like Lydia and Malik and Kiara and Annie Rude, they have got many options. And so when there are so many options and so many different pathways, adults kind of think, oh, it must be easy for them to make a decision. Well, actually, it's a lot more complicated. It's a lot more challenging for young people nowadays than it was perhaps when Miss Joanne and I went to school. So I guess the point that I'm trying to say is that UniFrog is a platform that can support students and assist students with that decision making. But I still think most importantly, it's the conversations that students have with their teacher, with Miss Stephanie, with their mum and dad, with their friends, that kind of helps them to arrive at the best decisions that they can arrive at within, you know, their own circumstances. And so if it's about finding out what undergraduate options are available and what subjects are required, then UniFrog's a great platform for that. If a student is looking for scholarships or financial aid to enter a university or an undergraduate program, then UniFrog provides that information. If a student is thinking about a university and a particular area of study, but may not know what that area of study may lead on to in terms of employment or research or other options, then UniFrog is a great platform for that. But again, for me, it's still the human factor. It's the ability to be able to, you know, for Malik to have a conversation with Annie Rood about what he's thinking, where he might be heading, those types of things are really valuable still. So I would say it's a balance for young people, for mums and dads out there. Use and utilize the tools that you have available, but don't forget that your most important resource, yourself and the people around you. Does that help?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr.
It's like I'm selling UniFrog, but I'm not selling UniFrog. It's just a resource.
Yeah, and also that's mostly for IBDP or middle and high school students, but in like the primary level, we also have a very good communication or relationship with the parents, and we maintain that through the parent student teacher conference that we have twice a year. In the primary level, we have in October, usually a parent-student teacher conference. Currently, it's still online, but hopefully next academic year, we will be able to welcome families back to our classroom to do the conference. And in the second semester, we have the parent-student teacher conference and led conference for the primary students. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I think I think there's a great opportunity to throw to Charlene at this point, because, you know, Charlene as a year 4 teacher could talk with some authority about Seesaw. And I know that our primary parents love Seesaw.
Yes. Seesaw is actually a great platform for our families to be able to see what their students or what their children are doing. And it's also where our students, especially when we're online, upload their work. It is also a tool to communicate with our family. So I generally communicate with my parents through Seesaw. And so that's, and it pretty much it's an open door policy. If you have a question, you just fire it through to Seesaw and we will get back to you as soon as we can. And whether it's about anything to do with the school opening up, or if it's something to do with your child's work or any concerns and so forth, that's actually a way where we can communicate with each other.
Yes, that's right. Okay, and also I think for Seesaw, considering that we're an international school, we have kids relocating from time to time. So when they left the school or relocated, they can also download what they have in Seesaw and use it for application to their next school in the next country. So it's also a very, very good platform to keep the students' work portfolio.
It's a great way to celebrate their work, celebrate their learning, actually.
I personally have a fun time every time I open the Seesaw and see the kids' work and all the comments from the parents, from the teachers. So it's really nice platform to use. So in the primary school, we use Seesaw, and then in middle and high school, we use ManageBack and also Microsoft Teams for your information. Okay. All right. So perhaps we can move to the Q&A session. Perhaps we can go to the first question from Ms. Christine. So is there any adjustment in grade or special assisted class for students who transfer from different curriculum-based school? Would you like to start with that one, Mr. Hutchinson?
Sure, yeah. I think the easiest way to respond to this question is that it's very much a case-by-case scenario. There are times where we look at the child's education background. We obviously, with our admissions process, Ms. Mia, we try and collect as much information through the application process. So that means previous academic reports. Students may come to us with teacher recommendations. They may come to us with other certificates and qualifications. But it's looking at all of that information. We interview every student that comes into our school. We also conduct the cognitive ability test for students coming in, so that gives us a bit of a snapshot as well. So we look at that information, and then we make an assessment based on the information that is available as to what age appropriate but also ability appropriate year level that student goes into. So it's not a case if a student is coming out of an Indonesian curriculum or a Japanese curriculum or a Korean curriculum that we simply put them in a lower level. We don't do that at all. Where possible, we will try and keep students in age appropriate year levels where they are able to interact with their peers, other students of a similar age, okay? But there are times where students will be placed a year lower, or in some cases a year higher, or depending on the situation of that particular student. So there's a little bit of flexibility there. There's not altogether science involved. It's very much a professional judgment about where we think, but also communicating with the parents and making sure that the parents are a part of that discussion, okay? Because some parents that are relocating, for example, let's say that a parent is relocating overseas to Indonesia for the first time, and their 12-year-old is attending an international school for the first time, there are lots of anxieties that come with that. And so one thing that we may look at is English language ability. And if we are not able to provide sufficient English language support at that year level, then we may need to look at other options. But what I want to do on the back of this question, Ms. Mia, is to kind of follow up on the English language support question that I know Ms. Joanne has spoken about, and I know she's typed a couple of responses. But one of the things, and I don't want to put Ms. Joanne on the spot altogether, but what I wanted to ask her is whether she could describe how, let's say that we've got a new year 7 student that's coming into our school from Japan or from Korea, and they haven't been a part of an international school environment before. How do we support that student? And I think Miss Joanne could talk from firsthand experience kind of how we do that. Is that okay, Miss Joanne?
Yeah, so as Mr. Hutchinson said, when the student goes through the admissions process, there will be an assessment at that point, and the student will be flagged for me generally. So the student will join the regular class on day 1, and during that week or in the first couple of weeks, we'll do an assessment. So that assessment will look at reading, writing, speaking, and listening on some occasions. And based on that assessment, we will determine the level of support that is required. Now, in some cases, it would be detrimental to have that student in my English class, for example, because they wouldn't be able to understand anything. You know, it's not good for their self-esteem. And we may find at that point that it is best to actually ask the student to have a one-on-one session during English class, and sometimes in Global Perspectives, which is quite a heavy text, lots of reading, lots of writing. So we may decide that that student will actually not join my class, will not join Global Perspectives, but it doesn't go on for a long time, because you generally find that the student will very quickly catch up and become very independent. And that can happen in some cases within a term. Sometimes it may take a semester, and it all depends actually on the child in some cases. So if you have quite an outgoing child who's quite willing to take risks, and they're communicating with other students in their peer group and around the school, then they will make progress much faster. If you have a child who may be a little bit shy, but is still working very hard, it may take a little bit longer. So it all depends child by child. So we can't say how long it's going to be, but it's up to how much the student is willing to work, and it also depends a lot on the characteristics and also on previous educational experiences.
That's
Was that
good.
Too long?
Perfect.
I can talk for an hour. I can do an hour.
Not at all. I guess that's kind of at a middle school level. Charlene, at a primary level, how do your students who require English language support, how are they supported?
Just the same as Joanne has mentioned. During the week, there will be sessions where they will go to the ELS sessions and have those sessions with our English language support teacher. And we work together actually with when they're in classroom. If we're having a literacy session, for example, I will obviously discuss what I'm doing with our ELS teacher, and we will work together to see how we can support those students in my classroom. I have a teacher assistant who can support these kids as well, and we adjust, we differentiate our program, our classroom program, for them, so that they're able to manage.
Excellent.
Thank you.
That's great.
All right, so move over to the second question. So what is the first few weeks of school like for a new student? Perhaps, not sure if our prefects still remember how their first week of school when they first came in. It's been quite a while, but perhaps I can try to explain. So for new students at our school, whether they're in primary school or middle or high school, they will have a buddy. So this the buddy will basically support them with the transition, getting used to the school area, the classes that they need to go to. In the primary school, it's very convenient because the kids have a homeroom class, so students have move around together. But in the middle school, basically they have a moving class system, so that adjustment, getting to know where's the classroom, what platform to access, how to check out your timetable, is something that we deliver through the post-enrollment process, making sure that if there's any questions about school life, or even simple question like what color of shoes that they have to wear, we try to support or answer that questions before students start schooling. So I think, yeah, I mean, the support from the classroom teachers and also the community, and not only their friends, but administration officer, even the principal are often, Mr. Hutchinson is always seen in the welcoming area at the drop off, morning drop off. So I mean, we try to support our students very personal. I think that would be the first few weeks of schools, hopefully.
I wonder, Miss Mia, if, because we've got a couple of homeroom teachers, and we will refer to the students as well, but you know, that first couple of weeks can be a very daunting experience for new students. Not only are some of our students adjusting to living in Jakarta, you know, getting settled, moving out of a hotel into their home or apartment, but they're attending this new school, and the systems and the processes are all very different. So, Miss Joanne, as an advisor of Year 7, what are some of the things that you do to support students, like in the very early stages of their experience at school?
I actually had a new student started on Monday. So it's a perfect question. So I had a new student started on Monday, a boy. He arrived from Japan, and yes, as soon as he arrived in the morning, I'm his advisor. I met him in the morning, introduced him to his buddy, but honestly, the buddy ends up being the whole class becomes the buddy because they all want to show him around, you know. So he's given the timetable, and as Miss Mia says, he's already got access to all the different platforms. And then what I do in the first few weeks, you know, just make sure he's getting from class to class, assured that he definitely is, and that he's got all the materials, because obviously when you come in the middle of the term, you didn't get the books and the learning materials. So make sure that all the teachers are advised, you've got a new student starting your class this week, and a little bit of background about him. Make sure that, you know, he's comfortable. And then I will meet with him a couple of times during the week. I will send an email to parents advising them that I'm the advisor and that I'm the first point of contact. So you'll find that it's the whole community. It's just what Mia said. It's the whole community that are actually involved when we have new students. They're so welcoming and so kind. Yeah, everybody is just wonderful. It's a big family, basically. Big family.
And Miss Charlene, you've had a newbie as well, haven't you, recently?
I've had several, actually.
There you go. And that experience for a primary age child? What's it like?
Well, actually, I also remind the children who are already in the class, I ask them to remember the first day of their schooling. So, and I ask, how did you feel? And so putting them back to, you know, to the memory of that, and putting themselves in the shoes of our new students coming through. And just like Ms. Joanne said, actually, there's no one buddy. They all want to help. They all want to be helpful and caring towards our new student. We've had a few students that came from the same country. So actually it's been lovely. So that's almost like a security blanket for them, because they are not alone. They don't feel alone. And we've had a student, a Japanese student who's been there but longer, and it helps them in their own leadership, developing their leadership ability to be able to mentor these other students. So it's been very welcoming, and we always check in, and we parents know that they can contact me if they're ever concerned. The support is definitely there, but our environment is always so that we're welcoming and caring towards them.
Yeah, that's great.
And I think, Mr. Hutchinson, not only the students, we also support the family. Yesterday, we just had our year-level parent representative afternoon coffee and tea. We basically
those wonderful virtual coffee tea sessions where I think sometimes I'm the only one with a cup of coffee in front of me. I think everybody else has got other beverages next to them. But anyway. Yeah, no, we do. We do try and reach out with our parent reps, Miss Mia, at each year level. Look, our parent reps are, I mean, for parents, for mums and dads who want to know what's going on, you know, for their particular child's year level. You know, we have the WhatsApp groups where parents can kind of keep updated. You know, I think we do a pretty good job of pushing out a lot of communication to our families via email, through Seesaw, through ManageBack, WhatsApp, and then of course, you know, we've got our YouTube channel where lots of information goes as well. So lots of different ways. But I think one thing that I wanted to highlight here, Miss Mia, is your role as the admissions officer for the school. It's a year-round responsibility and role. And I think for families, prospective families who are out there, you know, thinking that we have kind of particular enrollment stages through a school year, that's not the case for Acg School Jakarta. We have a rolling admission, which means that for the most part, we accept students any time of the year. Obviously, kind of getting closer to the end of the year, we recommend an August start. But even now, we're in the final, you know, term 4 of this very long and challenging academic year, and we're still enrolling and welcoming new students to our schools. So I think that's really important for prospective families to understand, is that, you know, we do have that rolling admissions, and Miss Mia is the person that supports you and guides you through that process. But interestingly, leadership was spoken as well, spoken about, Miss Mia, and I wanted to hear from our prefects a little bit more about student leadership, because it is something that pops up from time to time. What other opportunities do students have in our school? And they don't have to be an elected student leader, but what leadership opportunities, what experiences have our prefects been involved in, and beyond what has already been said, perhaps, if we can go to Annie Rude first.
So I guess in terms of elected ones, firstly, we have the student council members themselves, and then we have house captains. So they're responsible for all the house sports or any events we may have regarding house teams that we host at the school. For the student council, well, we have events that we organize, and these events, they usually happen once a month or maybe once every 2 months, depending on the size of the event. And I also know that now we have an Eco Warriors committee, and this committee, it's not really led by one figure that much. It's more like everyone's an equal figure in that. So I guess everyone has like an opportunity without really being elected to lead that group as a whole.
That's great, Annie Rude. And obviously we have our head boy, and this year we have head girls, so 2 head girls and a head boy, and we also have our 4 prefects who are appointed by application. But certainly from primary school all the way through the school, there are opportunities for leadership. And Annie Rude, you spoke about events. Perhaps Kiara or Malik or Lydia can comment about the kinds of events that our students have been running virtually over the last couple of years.
May I take
Lydia? Oh yeah, go Kiara. Yep, go for it.
So the kind of events that we've gone into this year, all centering around the virtual aspect, because we'd like, although we have the virtual learning down, we'd like as much people to be involved as possible, because even though they're learning from the comfort of their home, they're also still in our student community. So these events have looked like a virtual movie night, where we used a forum where we could share a movie, and it plays at the same speed for everyone, so that if one person has Wi-Fi issues, it doesn't interfere with everyone else's. We also had virtual games, and plenty of them, like I remember the house teams, they had a chess tournament. And then as for the student council ourselves, we had plenty of different games like Jeopardy and Bingo and Kahoot. I think especially this year, we've tried a lot to step out of the usual norm of student council events, because there are these expected events that we go through, but we also think of new ideas and try to make it virtual and safe for everyone. And I think that it really pushed us to be creative, and it really was worth it.
Lovely, Kiara. Lydia, you've got your hand, you had your virtual hand up and then your physical hand. That's great.
Yeah, one of the events that we also worked on was Mental Health Awareness Week. And that was like quite a new event. I think we started from last year. And I think it was like a really great event because everyone got to talk about how they were feeling, their mood that day. And we actually got lots of positive feedback on that. And they really enjoyed it because, you know, there's still some like negative stigma around like topic of like mental health and how we should take it more seriously. And destigmatizing this and like how we think and approach this issue is really important, and everyone really enjoyed it.
Lovely, Lydia. Yeah, I think, you know, the events that the leaders, not only the student leaders, because everyone's really embraced the opportunity to get involved in the different events that have taken place. So fantastic to see our students leading the way there. Malik, on the back of kind of new students coming to the school, I think one of the best ways for new students to kind of build friendships or get involved in the school is to engage in sport. What are your comments on that, if you have any, and kind of how you see the role of sport in kind of helping newbies to our school kind of get involved?
Yeah, so I'll use the example of volleyball since our year group is one of the oldest year groups who joins volleyball. So we've had a lot of new students from especially lower secondary join volleyball as well. And it just really helps them become more comfortable as in a sport where we have to like communicate with each other and in general practice with each other. It really helps students just to be more open about themselves, you know, express their skills, and in general just speak to other students during the break times, the water breaks, everything else. It just really helps students feel more in place, I guess, and yeah, just feel more part of whatever our community is doing.
That's great. And how do you guys connect with the primary school? Because I think that's a really common question that people have that are not quite familiar with how a small international school operates. It's kind of like, do we all kind of keep to our own sections, or is there any kind of interaction or crossover? So I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts about how you guys as leaders kind of involve the primary, or vice versa, perhaps. Anyone got a comment on that? Lydia?
Yeah, we actually have the student council. We have like monthly meetings with the primary student council, and we collaborate on like future events and ideas, and we discuss about how the event went and what needs to be improved on. And they, surprisingly, this primary students, they give like really great ideas, like, and yeah, we really enjoy talking to them for the most part.
Brilliant. Any other comments from the other prefects?
Yeah, I do have a comment.
Go for it, Annie Ruth.
Yeah, so like Lydia said, you know, we do meet with primary a lot. We also do work with some external organizations as student council. So one example is we actually collaborated with a organization, a nonprofit organization called Dear Asian Youth, in which we sort of promoted like going against, you know, like racism and stereotypes that people may have towards Asian cultures. And yeah, we sort of brought up that issue, and we had a movie night where we watched an Asian movie directed by Asian people, and we aim to actually get rid of or eliminate the stereotypes surrounding Asian communities.
Brilliant. And that is a real whole school approach, isn't it? Along with mental health awareness, our environmental efforts. So there is very much a whole school approach to a lot of those really important issues and topics that we all face and are challenged by. So thanks for your contributions there. I'll pass back to Miss Mia, who will probably wind things up this morning, I think.
Yeah, I think final question that I think could actually relate with some information you might want to share about how our current face-to-face program runs, Mr. Hutchinson.
You want some official information, do you, Mia? So just for the prospective families, so we are currently in what we call the limited face-to-face hybrid model. So that means that our kindergarten and primary students attend school from 8 o'clock until 12:30, and then in the afternoon they have an online session at home. For our middle school and high school, they start at 8 and they finish at 1 o'clock. And then there's an afternoon lesson or advisory session online. We still have our after school activities and our sports programs running until about 4 o'clock, 4:15. We will go to full face-to-face hybrid from the 9th of May. So to the last kind of 5 or 6 weeks of this school year, our students will attend school from 8 until 2:40, which is our regular school day for kindergarten through to high school. But we will still maintain the hybrid option for families. We still have some students who are overseas. We have some students who are out of Jakarta, and we have some students for health reasons are not attending the face-to-face options. So that will continue until the 17th of June, which is the end of our academic year. From August, the beginning of 22-23, the academic year, we will go to full face-to-face. So that hybrid model will not be in place. And so all students from kindergarten through to year 13 will be required to attend face-to-face learning. So that is the plan. Now, as we know in Indonesia and we know globally, we can put lots of planning in place and then certain things may happen. So look, that's what the school is planning at the moment. Obviously, there will still be some health and safety protocols in place for full face-to-face from August. We are currently updating our contingency plan for the final weeks of this school year, and then there'll be another update for the beginning of the next academic year. But it's a real challenge for a school community like us to kind of transition our families, our students safely back to, I guess, what people are now saying is the pre-pandemic way of living. I don't know whether that will actually ever be achieved. I think the way in which we live and interact with each other is something that we'll have to adjust as we move forward. But look, health and safety is a priority for us. We need to make sure that our community is safe. But we also value face-to-face learning. And, I don't want to harp on it, but I know if I'm talking to Miss Charlene or I'm talking to Miss Joanne or Miss Stephanie, the challenges of juggling face-to-face and hybrid teaching and learning is, it's really significant. And so, I think we will welcome the opportunity at the beginning of the next academic year for full face-to-face learning. As I said, there'll still be health protocols in place. That's as official as I can make it, Miss Mia.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hutchinson. So as we hear the answer of our final question, so I would like to thank all the panelists and families joining us this morning. We hope that this session has provided you with all the information you need to start your children application to our school. We have a rolling enrollment process and accept students throughout the academic year. And it's a very simple process that is mostly done through our open apply system that all the families here might already be familiar with. And also it involved the virtual enrollment interview. And for our families joining us this morning, we also offer an early bird discount until 29th of April. So I'm looking forward to supporting you with the application process. So wishing you a very good weekend. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you, and have a nice weekend, everyone.
Bye.